Hi everyone, thanks for tuning into my channel. This is Music Addict here, and if you are new here, make sure to subscribe to my channel and like this video if you do like the video. Just gets me more popularity, gets me more views to help make better quality videos for you. Alright, so today's video, I'm going to talk about the most overrated coaster at each Cedar Fair Park. We're going to go through the main 11 Cedar Fair parks. And I'm just going to talk about, in my opinion, what I think is the most overrated coaster at each park. Your opinion will probably be different from mine because my opinions definitely aren't always the most popular opinion. So just keep that in mind when you're watching this. However, I would love to know what you definitely do agree with in the video. So just comment down below and I'll try to get back to you and see if maybe you agree with me on something or what you disagree with. So let's get started. First off, I just want to mention Valleyfair and Michigan's Adventure because these are the only two Cedar Fair parks I've actually never been to. Therefore, I can't really say for sure what is the most overrated coaster at these parks. Personally, if I had to guess at Valleyfair, I would go with Excalibur. Michigan's Adventure, I wouldn't even think there really would be one there because it just doesn't really get talked about a lot. I know Shivering Timbers is talked about as an amazing ride, and it does look to be, well, an amazing ride. So, but without really going to either of these parks, I don't feel comfortable saying what for sure is overrated at either of these places. Hopefully, I will get to these parks within the next couple of years or so then I can judge for myself. However, if you've been to either of these parks, what is the most overrated coaster at these parks? Let me know in the comments down below. Alright, let's talk about Kings Island. So, I feel like some people could say that the Beast is very overrated. However, I'm one of those people that I absolutely adore the Beast. So, for me, that's not it. I feel like people could say that, Diamondback or Banshee's overrated. I don't think so. I think they're both very good, solid rides. And then you could say, well, Orion's overrated. Well, I haven't rode Orion, so I'm not really sure, although I can tell you it's definitely a contender for being overrated. However, this is going to anger some of you all. My pick for the most overrated coaster at Kings Island is Mystic Timbers. I love Mystic Timbers. It's an amazing coaster. I love wooden coasters, and it is an amazing GCI. Do not get me wrong. I'm not downing this coaster, and yes, you can still love a coaster but think it's overrated. Because this coaster, it's very overrated. Okay, everybody talks about Mystic Timbers being the best ride at Kings Island. Mystic Timbers, best wooden coaster ever. Mystic Timbers this, Mystic Timbers this. Okay. So all of a sudden, any other wooden coaster ever made, we throw out of existence. Every other coaster at Kings Island and Kings Island has an amazing lineup. We say, oh no, this is better than that. I don't think it's better than every single coaster at Kings Island. I like the Beast better than this still. I like Diamondback better. I like Banshee better. I think they're, just better rides to me. I think it's a great ride. It has some great airtime, but it is so overhyped. Like, people are like, well, this is a world-class coaster. It's a really, really great wooden coaster. It's definitely top 10 for me. But it's not, so amazing, epic. People talk about it like it's gold or something. Well, it's, as I said, it's an amazing ride. Airtime's great, but there's a lot of other amazing coasters too, and I think Kings Island, this is not the best coaster there. But that's me personally. So, yeah, that's how I feel about Mystic Timbers. The next Cedar Fair park I want to talk about is Worlds of Fun, which, by the way, is a very underrated Cedar Fair park, and it's very pretty. Definitely go check it out if you haven't yet. My pick here for most overrated is Mamba. Okay, so the other contender a lot of people could say is very overrated here would be Prowler. And I think for most people it's going to be between those two. Um, Personally, I loved Prowler. It's my number one in the park. Mama's my number two, though. However, I just think it's still overrated. Like, it's not as overrated as Mystic Timbers was, but still, I think it would be overrated. Okay, so some people put this as their number one in the park, and I can agree. I can get that. I can understand why. And it's a tall coaster. It's a hyper. It's smooth. It's not rough. The first drop is incredible. I love that first drop. However, the second half of the ride is kind of boring. That's why I think it's overrated. Like, you got a good, decent, I'd say, first half. And then once you hit those turn brakes on the way back, those turn brakes have to be some of the worst turn brakes I've ever encountered on a roller coaster. They kill your momentum. Like, you're going so good here, like right through here, and it's a really long ride. It's got some awesome layout, but once you hit those trim brakes, it's like the coaster dies. And I wish it would have been maybe more like, say, how Magnum XL has those bunny hills for some airtime. There's a lot of coaster you hit the trims and you can feel them, but yet the second half, you still get maybe some airtime, some good time on the coaster. Here's those trim brakes. We literally just slowed to a crawl. And that's why I think it's pretty overrated. People saying it's in top coaster in America. There's a lot of coasters that are better than this. It's a good ride, but once that second half comes, and I barely get any hair time on this either. Maybe it's where I'm sitting, and then you just kind of meander into the station. So, but that is what I think is the most overrated. Let's talk about King's Dominion next. So I had some trouble with this park because I feel like there's not really a clear overrated coaster here. Some people would say it's I-305. Me personally, I love I-305. Keep hyping it up. Twisted Timbers. It's a very great ride. I do not think that is overhyped, overrated at all. So I had to think about this. And I think what I'm going to have to put is the Backlot Stunt Coaster. So the Backlot Stunt Coaster is cloned also at Kings Island at Canada's Wonderland. However, I didn't put it for those parks because there's another coaster for each park that I feel like is overrated. But I did have some trouble with Kings Dominion, so they're basically the same coaster at each park. They're cloned. So a lot of people I've heard say that the Backlot Stunt Coaster is the best family coaster out there. You're kidding with me, right? You're kidding, right? Just no. I've had people say it's scary. I've heard, and then this ride gets the most insane lines. Like, what the heck? Okay. I hate seeing this coaster. I hate seeing it. It's about to become worse than the kiddie coasters. I know this is an unpopular opinion. The launches, they suck, but I know it's a family coaster. The theming, yeah, there's theming there. Half the time it doesn't work, though. The ride cars, that's for me, it's probably just a more me thing, but to me, they are squishy. I don't know. I feel like it's a boring layout. It's more about some effects. It's so short, and the effects don't even work half the time. I'm not a fan of it. I've never been a fan of any of them. So I say that's, yeah, definitely the most overrated coaster, for sure, there at King's Dominion. This is Knott's Berry Farm, which will be the next park I'm talking about. Also had some difficulty picking out a coaster from this park because I didn't really think any of their coasters are overrated. All of them deserve the praise they get. But there's one in particular that stuck out to me, and that is Coast Rider. I mean, Coast Rider, not Ghost Rider. The Wild Mouse Coaster. Yeah, I've actually heard people talk about how this is the best wild mouse out there, how this ride is even the best family coaster at Knott's, and this ride is just so intense and crazy. I've heard all of these things actually at one point or another about Coast Rider, and it's just a wild mouse. You got literally Jaguar, Pony Express, and Sierra Sidewinder in the same park. Um, I will admit this is a smooth coaster. It is new though, and I don't know why Cedar Fair thought to add this in 2013, but whatever. Like, I'm not sure what they were thinking, but this is just a wild mouse coaster. Plus, it has those terrible restraints that hit your shins, shin guards, whatever you want to call them, and they're just terrible and they ruin this ride. So the hype that this does get, which again, it's not a lot, but I have heard it. This is definitely overrated. It's just a wild mouse, and it's really not that good. Cedar Point, I have to pick Millennium Force as the most overrated coaster. This is definitely probably not a popular opinion. However, I think it's very overrated. When people say it's the best Giga or the best coaster at Cedar Point, you got Still Vengeance now in the same park. Maverick's an amazing ride. It's just really lacks airtime. There's literally no airtime. I don't get much airtime anyway. Maybe like a little bit. I feel like the layout's pretty boring after the first section of the ride. The layout gets pretty boring. It just kind of meanders around like it is here pictured. I do respect it for what it is. I do still like it. I think the views from it are wonderful. But pretty much after the first drop, it's pretty boring. And it gets consistently rated, or was for a while, like the best still coaster around. And I'm like, even after Fury 325 was introduced, it was even getting the award still. And I just think it's really overrated. It's a great ride. I understand what it did for the industry. However, it's just basically not what it's cracked up to be. I'm going to go with the most overrated coaster being Talon. This coaster basically only has 4 inversions. So, for being an invert, especially a B&M invert, they typically have a lot more inversions than that. So I feel underwhelmed by that. And also, like, you get through the inversions really fast on the ride, and then the ride just kind of meanders around and didn't really do a lot. I feel like B&M, like, I don't know what was going on when they designed this ride, but it needs more inversions and it needs a little more oomph to say. I know this is some people's favorite in the park, and I think it's overrated because, like, it's just not a top tier coaster. Especially for a B&M invert, you expect inversions. That's kind of a B&M thing. You're only getting 4 of them. And then the layout just, as I said, you go through the inversions really quick, and then you're kind of like, hello. There's more. I do enjoy the ride, though. Um, it's smooth. But as far as people saying it's the best ride at Dorney Park, it's definitely not, and that's why I think it's overrated. Now let's talk about Carowinds. This is a park that I feel like a lot of people could actually put maybe Fury or Copperhead Strike is their opinion of the most overrated coaster at the park. However, I'm choosing a different coaster, and I am going with a coaster known as the Hurler. Okay, so it's the only wooden coaster at Carowinds, and there was a identical coaster at King's Dominion that got RMC'd. And however, I know this is the better of the two clones, and it's not a terrible ride for me, it's just very mediocre. And the reason I'm saying it is overrated is because I've heard people talk about this as if um, it's a top 4 in the park. I've heard people say this one shouldn't get RMC because this one's good, or this is a top tier wooden coaster. Um, I've heard people rave about airtime on this coaster even, and I just don't see it. Like, to me, it's just a boring, bland coaster. It's not really rough. It's just boring. Doesn't do a whole lot for me. Um, I think Carowinds actually really does need a good wooden coaster. Um, it's just kind of there. Like, if you rave about it, I don't know why. Um, because again, it just doesn't really do much. I feel like it's just so boring. Stays so low most of the time. And there's a reason why the one at King's Dominion got RMC'd. I know it was rough, but also the layout it really sucked. I'm not gonna lie. California's Great America. I don't really think has an overrated coaster, but I guess I'm gonna have to pick one. Although, again, I don't think anything here is particularly overrated. I'm gonna go with Patriot, which is the floorless conversion, used to be known as Vortex here. I know a lot of people have said this is much better as a floorless than as a stand-up, and I do agree it is better as a floorless than as a stand-up. However, past that, this coaster doesn't really deserve much praise. It's not rough. However, the layout sucks. It is short and it's slow. It's under 2,000 feet of track. Only has 2 inversions. A floorless coaster only having 2 inversions, yeah, it's going to be boring. And it only has a height of 91 feet. Granted, this was like one of B&M's very, very first creations, so they've only gone up from there. However, this coaster just, I know people definitely said that it's a top, you know, I've heard people say it's a top 2 in the park. It's definitely not. Um, I've heard people say it's like better than Medusa. I know I've heard somebody actually say it was better than Medusa as a floorless, and I'm like, you are crazy. Personally, I think Scream is better than this also. It just, I don't know. I don't think a lot of people talk about it being overrated, um, but it's definitely not that great. And if I had to pick a coaster that's overrated, this would probably be the one at California's Great America. The very last park in the Cedar Fair chain that I can talk about is Canada's Wonderland, and my opinion of their most overrated coaster is Behemoth. Okay, so Behemoth, absolutely fantastic coaster. It's an amazing hyper coaster. There is nothing wrong with the coaster in itself. What makes this coaster overrated, however, is when people talk about it as if it's the best ride in the park that has a park that has Leviathan. They talk about this coaster like it is so much better than Leviathan, and that it's so much better than Yukon Striker, which you can argue this or Yukon Striker is better. I can understand the argument from either side. However, just to go, people use this coaster to bash Leviathan because this coaster is somewhat more forceful than Leviathan. However, you don't appreciate Leviathan for what it really is. It's a great coaster, and to say that Behemoth is better than Leviathan, I don't think in this case that is true at all. So that's why I would call Behemoth overrated, is simply just because of the fact that you're going to use this coaster to bash another coaster. Leviathan is not a bad ride at all, and it is better than Behemoth, but that is my opinion, and I get tired of people saying that this is their number one in the park. You expect Leviathan to be. I expect Leviathan to be. And it definitely should be. Behemoth, you're great. However, I think you need to get maybe a little bit less great. Let me know what you thought down in the comments below. What you agree with on this list, what you disagree with on this list, and especially your reasons for agreeing or disagreeing. And thank you so much for watching this video.